hope you have a good Monday. So hi everyone, all the ones that are joining today. We'll start today this medical device live expert. So this is a panel discussion where we will have three panelists or three people that I will be interviewing. For that, we'll be discussing mainly about the future of the regulation of the MDR. I hope you will enjoy this talk. We had some few discussions just before the entering on the live. It was already funny, so I hope this episode will be really nice to listen. So please, for people that are already listening, if you can just say that everything is fine, that you are listening to, you are hearing me, for example, and where you are from also. I like also to see where people are from, so that I can also imagine that maybe are in the different countries in the world. So let us know, and then I will be calling each of the panelists to come and discuss the topic. So let me check that. So yes, I can hear you. Great. What by I can't remember your name. I can't say your name. So tell us also where you are from, maybe just to see if everything is okay. Okay, so it's fine. Okay, so as I've said, so today we'll be talking about the future of MDR. We have few not changes, proposals or discussions that are ongoing in the background, and the idea is mainly to review what is discussed, and maybe what also is the impact to the MDR, because it's something that is that can have some impact. So better to know and discuss that and also comment that. So the objective also of today is that, as it's live, the objective is also for you to answer, maybe to ask questions. So don't hesitate to put the question on your on the chat, and I will pick those questions and then sharing that on the screen and waiting for people to for our panelists to answer those questions. So I think we are ready. So let's maybe now just make our panelists enter the live. Okay. So the first one, or the first person to enter, is from BV Med, so the German trade association. So it is Christina Ziegenberg. So Christina, welcome to the medical device live expert number 3.
Hi, nice to be here.
Hi, Christina.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining again. And I hope we will have a good discussion also with all the work that you are doing with BV Med. We'll talk also about some white paper that you have created. Okay, so second person to enter is mainly from the notified body TÜV Süd. So we have Martin Witte. Hey, Martin. Hey, cannot hear you? Can you hear me?
Now you should.
Okay, it's fine. Nice to hear you. So hi, Martin. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So happy to be here and discuss about future of MDR.
Always.
Okay, and the third one is our preferred lawyer from Axon Lawyers. So it is Eric Borbrek. Hi, Eric.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
Well, actually this is my first day back from holiday, so if I'm a bit over energetic, then just tell me to tone it down a notch.
Okay, no problem. But I like energetic people, so don't hesitate. Be energetic and make things really fun here. Okay, so as said, today we'll be discussing about the future of MDR. So I hope you are all aware of what's happening then with the commission or the different proposals or whatever. So the objective of today is to comment that, to discuss that, and maybe to get also some questions from the audience that will be telling us more about what they understood, or maybe they have some specification on that. We'll try to stay on the topic specifically for those questions, to not try to ask a question that have nothing to do with that. And then we'll see mainly if we can help and we can really answer all of this. To start, we are always starting this kind of session with what we call the random news. So if maybe we can just share with people, the objective of today is mainly just to say what can be a random news that you have that mainly people can hear about and maybe makes fun or yeah, maybe is interesting also for people. So I wanted to start with you, Eric, maybe if you have a random news to share with the audience.
Oh, I was involved in 2 car accidents in my 2-week holiday in France, none of which required any medical devices.
Okay, so funny that it's in France. So I
And
hope
only one of which was actually my fault.
okay, so I hope everything is fine. There was no damage or anything, but yeah.
But there was damage, yeah.
Okay.
Not to persons.
Okay, great. The most important, as it's only material. So where in France?
The first car accident was close to Boulogne-sur-Mer, and the
Okay.
second one was right at Omaha Beach
Okay.
in Normandy. Yeah.
So you are really staying in the north of France then?
No, the let's say the northwest. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brittany, Bretagne, and
Yeah, Bretagne,
Normandy.
exactly.
Mostly Brittany, though.
So good.
Fantastic part of France.
I hope you improved your French with that.
Yes, we can continue in French if you
speak
like.
French anyway, so it's not a problem. Okay, so second, Martin Witte, do you have a random news?
Yeah, I found it quite funny that when Eric could stand up, please, his T-shirt says Ordnung, and Ordnung in English means order. And it's quite funny because TÜV Süd has this second notified body located in Copenhagen.
Okay.
And we don't have our own building there, but we rented a space. And the landlord, the company, is also called Ordnung. So order, which I found very funny when I went there the first time. I saw the building and I saw the word Ordnung, and I, of course, had to take a picture. I didn't share it on LinkedIn because I was like, maybe it doesn't come along so good.
You choose your landlord correctly, then it's really making complete sense.
Yeah. Part of the quality system of the notified body to have Ordnung as a landlord.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the name of the landlord in Danish, that's really not the point.
Okay, good. And you, Christina, any random news?
My random news is my coffee mug, because it's from the Bureaucracy Reduction Museum in Germany, which is located right beside our office. It's not open. It's not yet open, or it's already closed again. But I drink my coffee and tea from a stationary hot drinks storage and dispensing container. So while working on reducing bureaucracy with the MDR, I'm very aligned with this coffee mug.
Great. So it's really on the topic of today, reducing bureaucracy or helping to make some changes here on this discussion. So great. Okay. So as said, mainly we'll be talking today about some changes that are, should I say planned, or should I say dreamed, or I don't know, should I say people are thinking maybe. So
Maybe
this is
all
some
the above.
proposals. Some proposals that that are made, and the objective of today is to understand more this proposal, understand more the consequence, understand more also if this is something that is really will happen or not. I mean, it's why we have you as an expert to discuss many about that. So first, it will be about this Peter Lise proposal that we have. So I wanted mainly to ask you, and maybe we start with you, Eric. If you can maybe explain to us in maybe a few minutes what is this, what we are talking about here when we say the Peter Lise proposal.
Yeah. Well, to start with, it's not a proposal. I would say I always call it an initiative. I was involved in writing it myself because I was retained by the European Parliament for this, by Mr. Lise's cabinet. And what it is, actually, it is, I would rather call it an initiative to frame the discussion going forward. because a single European parliamentarian doesn't have a right of initiative. Neither does the whole parliament. Only the Commission has the right of initiative. So basically, it is a way to show where the European Parliament could go with the MDR. That is basically how you should see it, because Mr. Liese is a very influential parliamentarian on the devices files in the Parliament, right? He was the rapporteur for the IVDR back in 2012 to 2017. He's been very involved in the further development of the MDR and the IVDR. And now, earlier this year, his political party, the EVP, had also issued a document with 10 points that they wanted to see changed about the MDR. And basically, he decided, okay, I'm going to see if I can put this more on the center stage politically. He decided, look, wouldn't it be great if we could, basically draft more or less something that the Commission could use in its targeted evaluation as a ready-made proposal, so they don't have to do as much homework themselves. And I have maximum leverage on what it will look like in the future. That's basically it. So that's the background. And the initiative itself, it's basically you could say a sort of ready-made amendment regulation for the MDR that includes a number of elements that we've seen more widely circulated already. Like, for example, what should be the duration of CE certificates? What degree of centralization do we need in Europe? Do we need a central entity? And also a reduction of bureaucracy, one of the themes that Christina talked about. There's a lot of that in there. So there are a lot of the elements, you could say, that were already, that basically everybody agrees about that should happen with the MDR, are addressed in that initiative.
Okay.
Of course, depending on where you come from, you can say, well, it needs to be calibrated more to the left or more to the right. But in any event, I think what Mr. Liese really achieved is that these topics are now on the table for discussion, and everybody is talking about it quite a lot. So I think, mission achieved. What I've also heard is that the ENVI committee, so that's the committee of the European Parliament that deals with legislative initiatives, also has been talking to the Commission, saying we are going to put this on our agenda for the next period. So we would like to see something along these lines. So this is actually, it's really it's catching political momentum, you could say.
Okay, and so mainly, as you say, it's an initiative. It's sent somewhere to the Commission, I suppose, or sent to, or just published in a journal? Or?
I think Mr. Liese sent it to everybody in the Commission, basically, because it was sent to quite some senior people, to the Commissioner, to the head of unit of devices, I think even to Ursula von der Leyen, to catch momentum for that. And I know that DG Santé has it on their desk, and that they are looking at it because, basically the Parliament says this is what could work for us. So they need to take it into consideration for if they are going to put a concrete initiative on the table to amend the MDR as part of the targeted evaluation that the Commission is working on.
So, Christina, Martin, have you seen this and also received it, or?
Yes, of course. I've seen it. We got the information through different channels, and it's a very interesting proposal because there are a lot of topics, at least in line with our white paper and with the topics we are raising from industry side. So we are looking forward to the next steps and what the new commissioner will do with it, and what's the next steps.
Exactly, yeah. And you, Martin?
Yeah, I think there are some things in there, and to me, it's a collection of headlines, so to say, more detailed headlines that should be discussed in my mind. And there are some things in there that are interesting, others quite surprising, but I think it's anyway good that there is a discussion ongoing, and that even though there is no right for initiative of the parliament, I think having a public discussion about things is always good. If now I like all the proposals, doesn't really matter, or if all the proposals for me make sense, also doesn't matter. But I think there are some things that should be discussed. Yeah.
So can you maybe elaborate more on what maybe makes no sense or what should be discussed?
I don't want to say it doesn't make sense. I think it's, of course, it's, and from a politician's standpoint, I think it's understandable to put out demands and put them in writing and send them to the relative responsible people. But we all know that from a request or from a demand, creating something like a law, and Eric knows this best, that takes a while and takes a lot of discussions. And let's say the recertification topic or other things, that there is so many topics that can be broadly discussed, where I see some good elements in such statements, but we need to detail that out. So I wouldn't say everything is great, but I wouldn't say either everything is bad. It's again notified body. It depends answer.
Let's take this one that you talked about, recertification. What's the proposal now, or the initiative that is proposed for that?
Yeah, maybe Eric, you explain that quickly because you were involved in that.
Yeah, basically it's the initiative says what it says no fixed duration for certificates for devices of classes 2A and 2B, and a 10 years duration for class 3 and class 2B implantables. That's basically that's the idea. But again, and I think Martin put that very well. It is, of course, a politician's view of what is politically feasible, right? So this is what Parliament thinks, or Mr. Liese thinks at this moment. This is something we could do, and as Martin, I think, also quite well mentioned quite well, this is going to be subject to further discussion and fine-tuning, because this is, of course, only one side of the discussion. And if you want to have a law, then the Commission will need to look at this from a broader perspective. And it might be that they come to the conclusion, well, why don't we just abandon certification for all classes, for example? That's also possible, right? It just depends on where this lands in the end.
Exactly, yeah. Christina, just one thing maybe on this recertification, BVMed, you are for, against, or you are more the voice of the manufacturers, if I can say so? I mean, is it really a problem, this recertification, for example?
Well, we are absolutely in favor to abolish the recertification because of different reasons. On the one hand, you have the new principle of the life cycle view for the complete life cycle of the medical device. So it's not that necessary, like under the directives, with the post-market surveillance, with the post-market clinical follow-up, with the different documents you have to provide to recertify every 5 years. And our standpoint is that we call for abolishment for all devices, not only for risk class 2A, 2B, but for all. And one further aspect is that we still have a lot of backlog for the certification for all products. And now the first recertification arise. So we will have this backlog stressed again with the first recertifications from the early adopters that were in the beginning of the MDR, brought their products into the MDR, got new certificates, and they are now they have to recertify their products, while other companies have their first turn, let's say it like that.
Agree. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I add something for the process here, because and that's something when you read it, you think of product certification, but when we talk about class 2A to B, it's mainly a quality management certification. Yeah, of course the product is assessed, but the certificate you get is a quality management certificate. You do not get a product certificate. So when we are talking about high risk devices, the reassessment that is done after 5 years is a little bit more intense, I would say, because state of the art might have changed and blah, blah, blah. But when you go through a normal certification cycle of an MDR certified company with their quality management system, they very likely will have an ISO 13485 certification, and that will require recertification every 3 years. So the MDR recertification cycle for that quality management system certificate is kind of not really fitting to the ISO 13485. And honestly, why should the EU align their cycles to the ones a standard committee creates? I mean, would be nice if, but they didn't. Okay, now let's look at the actual work there. So the recertification work for class 2A to B devices, when conducting surveillance activities as planned, and especially the auditing and doing the technical documentation sampling as planned, is quite low. So the impact of this might also be quite low. I see an impact for high-risk devices, because here there is more work to be done. But I also see that there is a possibility of being more pragmatic there. So at least from our end, I would say this is an interesting proposal, and it's interesting to see how much re-evaluation we do continuously through surveillance activities, through post-market surveillance, through summary on safety and clinical performance for all various kinds of products. But the question I would wonder about is, what's the real benefit behind this? And yes, it might reduce a little bit the workload on the notified body side, whereas this is, from an auditing perspective, really a small portion, more an administrative part. And I wouldn't agree to work piling up in recertification, hindering other stuff to be done. So that's a view I can't share, at least.
So mainly all this, as we talked about, is really to reduce the bureaucracy, as you said, Christina, I think. Huh?
Yes, and I probably to jump in here what Martin said. It's one of the main things that also industry is calling to reduce the administrative burden. And we see, for example, and I fully agree that in some cases the impact is probably not that high like in other cases, but the administrative burden, especially for issuing the certificates when everything is done with the conformity assessment is very, very high. And a lot of manufacturers, members of BVMed, for example, they wait for their certificates after the last approval and check for 6 to 12 months. And this would definitely help, or could be avoidable if the recertification and the new issuing of certificates would be abolished.
Well, I would agree to the administrative part of it, because I mean, you need to create a new application for that. Yeah, so you yourself need to apply for extending your certificate. Maybe there is smarter solutions to this. Yeah, maybe there are, but that's how the lawmakers thought about this, that you need to apply. You can apply a year early. That's not the problem. If you apply too late and it's not done in time, your certificate becomes void and you have to get a new one. And that is really a struggle I see. And I see also the challenge for manufacturers to update their declaration of conformity when there is a new certificate, and maybe also doing some labeling activities if needed. So I understand that this means a little bit, or maybe for some, a huge amount of administrative burden. And I think there is something that could be done. On the other side, looking back to what was done the last 5 years and acknowledging that everything was done properly and correctly, in my mind, still seems to be right. And I think that's also an advantage of our system versus the FDA system. But yeah, and people often compare it to the pharmaceutical sector. I would be very careful there, because that's, in my mind, 2 different worlds, even though it's often perceived as if this is very similar. In my mind, it's not.
Eric, you said also that on the proposal there was maybe the centralization of activities. So it's just to jump on what Martin said about pharma, that they have the EMA. So is this also the proposal says that we have to centralize?
Well, I would like to make 2 points here, because
initiative, not proposal. Sorry.
Yeah, no, because people often think that in the pharmaceutical world with the EMA everything is centralized, but it's not.
Which is not wrong. Which is true.
Because actually the EMA handles quite a small amount actually of medicine approval in Europe. And even then, the EMA is mostly comprised out of experts that are borrowed to EMA processes by member states. So the vast majority of medicines is still is basically licensed in a system that looks quite a lot like the notified body system, actually, where you have one lead authority that assesses the, which is one of the national ones that assesses the medicinal product, and then checks if the other authorities agree. So that's almost like notified bodies, except that when a notified body evaluates a device, they don't check with other notified bodies if they agree with the evaluation. That would be really nice if something like that could happen, because then you would get a lot of harmonization. On the other hand, it would also maybe create other bureaucracy, I don't know. But the centralization part, this is, I think, also one of the elements that everybody agrees on, that needs to happen in the medical devices system. It was also in the BVMed white paper. MedTech Europe has, for example, also been very vocal about centralization. And myself, I've also made silly jokes about the European system sometimes being a bit like this Monty Python sketch of the 100 meters for people without sense of direction. And so it's really nice if there could be more coordination than happens currently. Because what we see, for example, is that during COVID, we saw that some member states allowed their notified bodies to do remote audits for all types of audits, whereas other member states said, no, you cannot do remote audits for new devices, for example, like Germany did. So these are things, for example, that if you want basically the system to function in a sense that basically every notified body has the exact same powers, then what you shouldn't do is tell different notified bodies that they should behave differently, right? That's not supposed to work. And the current system of regulation does not prevent this kind of thing. I mean, you think like, oh, we have the MDCG and that's kind of a centralization that works really well. It doesn't, because the MDCG cannot avoid that things like the remote audit thing happen. Also, the MDCG cannot avoid that member states actually can even agree on whether a specific MDCG guidance is relevant in the first place, right? So, for example, the borderline products MDCG guidance, which I think is one of the more important ones, actually was specifically said by the Italian and the German authorities that they are not going to apply the definition of pharmacological effect in that guidance because it's not helpful in their opinion, in my opinion too, by the way. But anyway, so to avoid these problems, you need more centralization. Okay, so how do you do more centralization? That is, of course, again, one of these, let's say, tightrope acts that you need to think about then. So a politician can say, well, we want this, Commission may want that. But what the LISA initiative does is basically it copies a template from another recent piece of legislation, the AI Act, where they also were trying to solve the same centralization problem, and where they basically solved it by putting an office that is not a separate agency, but is rather a dedicated part of the Commission bureaucracy in the Director General that's responsible for that policy area as, let's say, something that externally looks like something independent, although basically it's just giving the Commission more power. So that was the solution chosen there. And then, of course, the question is, what powers do you give this office, right? Because this is, of course, another thing. And I remember when I saw the MDR and the IVDR for the first time, I was like, okay, the Commission did pretty good for itself, because the Commission already got a lot more power than it had under the directives. Some of the powers it never exercised. So, for example, the Commission has a really strong power, I think, specifically also on borderline devices in Article 4, which I think for political reasons it's never exercised, but it's still good. And what the LISA initiative does is basically put a lot more, let's say, power in the field of interpretation, governance of notified bodies, governance of joint actions, and so on between member states in the hands of the Commission. So it's basically, if you ask me, it is basically making the system function as people think that it already does when they don't know how decentralized it actually is behind the scenes.
So does it mean that in this initiative, the fact is so the notified bodies should not report anymore to the competent authority and should report to this office?
No, that's also not really it, because what the initiative does not take away the primacy of notification by member states.
Yeah, okay, this is one.
This is still a very important thing for member states, that the member state can decide, okay, this is an organization that we allow to be a notified body and that we are responsible for oversight. But what it does do is that it limits the options of member states to diverge from a centralized party line for how notified bodies are accredited and how notified bodies are controlled. So, for example, one of the ideas in this initiative is that if a member state wants to do something like the example that I gave about not allowing remote audits during COVID, for example, then it needs to tell the Commission this as a technical measure that goes against the general functioning of the system. So then the Commission, the office, can say, no, we're not going to do this. This is diverging from the central party line. We don't want this. Member state, you're not supposed to do this.
Martin, is it something that you think notified bodies would accept, or?
I mean, what the example Eric just said, I would be happy if there is a pure alignment and if there is a certain oversight. Yet I'm skeptical, knowing the federal structure of Germany, that a country like Germany will empower something like this. Yeah, we are discussing on a German level the responsibility between the federal government and the state government. So I like the idea of harmonization, and I think there is a lot of potential in there, yes. And having a centralized organization taking over some of the decision making, but also being available for stakeholders to ask questions. Yeah, let's say you have a classification issue. Yeah, it really depends in which country you are, how fast you get your feedback. Yeah, in some member states, and I might not sit in that one, but maybe I do, it takes 12 months and longer. Yeah, and that is unacceptable for an innovative company. In other member states, maybe one of our neighboring member states that speak the same language as we, it might only take a couple of months. So that's a competition of authorities between member states, and that is also something that is not good. Yeah, I mean, this is really hindering innovation. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's an issue. But I mean, I'm no longer like 23, and I've lived through some political decisions. And let's be honest. So, good idea will also need a certain amount of discussions, but in general, some centralization, I'm not totally against that. But it really depends on what it is. Yeah.
And from you, Christina, is the BVMed aligned to say this will help to reduce bureaucracy? Because here we say about adding a new level of control also, so maybe it's add more documentation also.
Yeah, well, I think the risk is there that if you add a new level, then you add also a new level of administrative burden and bureaucracy. But in general, we see that there is a huge potential to harmonize more than it is at the moment. And I think I have to agree with Martin. There could be a kind of controversial discussion in some member states. That's clear, fair enough, and probably it's not all see that as realistic as others, but I think it's really necessary to have this harmonization through centralization, because there is really a huge mess in some topics and specific points within the MDR and also the IVDR. So I think we should use this potential, and of course the proposal or the initiative of Lisa and also the industry papers, they show a lot of potential within this harmonization.
Okay, so these were just two. I think there was 10 points from Thursday. So yeah, I think it will take a lot of time to review everything. But yeah, I think just those two bring some comments here. I wanted just mainly to review now the next point, which was another actor, so the Germany, that also has published a paper with 7 points this time. So can somebody maybe tell us more about is this aligned with what Peter Lise is proposing, or is his initiative, or is this something completely different here?
Well, I think I have no idea if it was aligned or if they discussed that internally. But if you screen the content, you will find a lot of similar things in there. So most probably it was aligned, I would say.
That's not a surprise, because Mr. Lise is also, he's a CDU politician. So I would be amazed if he would diverge from the CDU party line, because the EVP is the political group in the parliament that includes the CDU.
Yep. And von der
So
Leyen is
I
also
mean, I
from
can't
the
comment
CDU.
on whether this was internally adjusted, but I completely agree with Christina that if it would diverge, that would be interesting.
Okay.
Could also happen, yeah. I mean, there's also a CSU and a CDU. They can have different opinions, but yeah.
Yes.
So in terms of these things, so here we have in one side Peter Lise that make this initiative to the commission, I think, or the parliament. Then we have the CDU that is also making this to the council. So mainly, where all this is going? So is there like?
Well, there are some steps in between, because basically the CDU thing that was, and Christina, you'll correct me if I represent it wrong, but so basically what happened there was that there is parliamentary committee for health in the German parliament, which was asked to advise the German government on how they should act with respect to the MDR in Brussels. And what the CDU did was the CDU said, okay, we as important party in parliament would like this. And then there was a hearing in the Parliamentary Committee on Health. So the parliamentarians in that committee could ask experts about these 7 points that the CDU as a political party proposed, what the experts thought about this. So this would help the parliamentarians form their opinion for discussions with the German government. I think this is how it sticks together. Mm-hmm. And well, this meeting happened. So well, Christina and I were both at that hearing. Martin's boss was also at the hearing, and so what is happening now is that that basically the results of this hearing will, to some degree or other, be taken over by the German government, as the government acts in the council in Brussels.
So in terms of this agenda, if I can say, as Martin said, it will take a while, or we can have a speed run for some of those initiatives, maybe not all, but maybe some of those, or it's something that for now is just in the air and we have no clue what will be happening with that.
Well, I think it's in between. It depends. Martin already said, because we see that the discussion has started. That's the first thing, and that's the good thing. And we also see that not only the parliament and the council is talking about this topic, but also the commission, because the commission within the EBSCO meetings and also within the MDCG meetings, where stakeholders raised their concerns, they recognize that there is that they have to do something, and they started to work on the targeted evaluation that will start in this autumn. But to be honest, results, I'm pretty sure that they will come not tomorrow and the day after, but will take some time. And this is from industry perspective and probably also notified body perspective, not the best thing, because the problems are now, and we are facing them, or industry is facing them, and in the end, the patient is suffering because the products are not there. So and we see it. We are still or at the moment occupied by another amendment, another quick fix of the regulations, and we absolutely need that structural change of the laws.
I mean, we had a lot of changes since MDR was implemented, even before. So we have some corrigendum, we have some proposals, we have some proposal 1, proposal 2, etc. So people had again to rechange things or relearn again, relearn the new dates, relearn the new process, check if their notified body were certified or not, waiting for them, and now they have to ask them for letters. I mean, a lot of changes. So is this also something that the industry will appreciate, to again have some changes or some new learning? I mean, we know that the regulation is always changing, so there will always be some changes on that, but here it's again and again. And is this, do you hear some people saying maybe, oh, not change anymore, it's fine, let's keep as it is and not change anymore? Or we have really some industry that the industry is really asking for that, say, guys, no, we cannot, we are suffering now?
And again, I have to say it depends, because it's not one clear answer I can give. We have to admit that these changes that have been made were absolutely necessary, but we also have to say they made the system even more complex as it was before. So there is a pro and a con. But to be clear, these changes, they were necessary.
No, this I agree completely. And I mean,
for the future, for the future, it's difficult because we see the discussion has started, and we see there will likely be a change. We don't know in which content and how far this change will go, or what's exactly be there in the future. But we also know it will take time. So you will get different answers. You will get different answers by asking different people. Some of them will say, we don't want another quick fix because it's too complicated already, and we can't explain to our suppliers and to the third countries what's going on there in Europe, and there is no trust anymore. Other companies will say, but we need a change now for this or that topic. So it's difficult.
Yeah, and I suppose that, as you've said before, there are some companies that are already inside EU MDR, already certified, and some others that pushed as a maximum, and now they are still in the transition period. So we have two different states for the same type of companies also. So yeah, we can have different answers also at that stage.
And there are the companies that are going to the market for the first time with the product. I mean, if you are a company that has, let's say, an AI-powered autonomous surgical robot system, for example, well, I would probably take that to the US first, because it will probably be a lot faster to get your approval there. And that is also a situation that that should be fixed from a policy perspective, because what you will get is that innovative companies will say, look, it looks like Europe could be in the exact same place where the US was early 2000s, when the FDA was asking for way too much clinical data and clinical trials, and where people were complaining that that people in Europe would get all the medical innovations first because the market access process was so much quicker and simpler. Now you could say that the regulatory pendulum has sort of swung the other way because of the complexity that the MDR and the IVDR has brought now. So that means that from a larger perspective, industry policy perspective, society health perspective, at EU level, they need to do something, right? So on the one hand, they should not punish the companies that have already invested in the MDR system by basically pulling the rug out from underneath them by changing things too much. But on the other hand, they also want the EU to stay an attractive place to go to with your medical technology, because if it's not, then yeah, I mean, the EU can't keep its policy promise of a high level of healthcare. That's basically the dilemma.
No, it's great. So, Martin, maybe you are from a notified body. You hear maybe all those discussions now. So, what's mainly are the notified body activities now on the back? So, what are you doing, or what is there a discussion between notified bodies or with the MD? What's your name again? For the
MDCG?
No, the Notified Body Association, can't remember.
Team NB.
Yeah, Team NB, exactly, Team NB. So is there, do we have a discussion about, here are the information we receive, here is maybe what they want to do, so we should maybe do something or not? Because, and we talked about that also before, we always see the notified bodies as the bad guys, because you have to implement what people ask you to do, but you are feeling like the bad guy. So how are you, what are you doing on all this now?
Yeah. So if you drive too fast, then the bad guy is the guy who catches you, not the one who drives too fast. Yeah, but that's maybe too simple of an example, and that's not the situation we are in. Yeah. And that's in the nature of our business. Yeah, we assess, we question, we support by that, and that's something that, of course, can be challenging. And it's okay to be blamed for a lot, as long as we can still be reasonable about things that we are blamed for, and then figure out that it's not really our problem, but comes from somewhere else. So what the notified bodies do, and you mentioned it already, Team NB. Team NB has quite grown and got stronger in its presence towards also the MDCG and other working parties in the European Union and in the Commission. So I think there are quite well connections to the relevant stakeholders. So the Team NB members know upfront in which direction the Commission is going, and there is a good exchange between the two parties, which makes things really better. Yeah. So we discuss things more on eye level as we did in the past, and the opinion of the notified bodies is taken into consideration. And I've been part of some discussions with Team NB, mainly in context of Annex 16, so devices without a medical purpose. And I must say, I was really surprised about the constructiveness and pragmatism that was there. Yeah, so you work on the one side with people who, more or less created the law and know it by word, but also understand their intention, and also see then the challenges from outside and try to get things together. So these activities happen. And also with between notified bodies, there is kind of an alignment on what to demand in terms of what needs to be in a technical documentation, and other things. Yeah, and also when we get a new MDCG guidance documents or templates, then of course we as a group discuss how these can be used or shall be used. I think there is still some room for improvement, because I mean, that's not such a big group. I mean, it is big, but the amount of people working in it is is okay, but could be more, and there could be more, but also maybe some support from the EU side, which is now coming. But I think it's much better than it was in the past. Yes, we align. On the other side, we are still competitors, so we can't align too much. We can, of course, align based on what is the legal framework, what are the requirements, but everything else is competition, and you don't want monopoly to be formed or oligopoly.
But in terms of the fact, and we discussed that before, that you receive different messages or different orders from your competent authority, you have to deal with that also. So
yeah, we have to deal with the competent authority relevant for us. Yeah, here in Germany, it's the ZLG. In Denmark, it's the Danish competent authority. They might have different perspectives to certain topics, but at the end, they also align. Yeah, so it's not that they don't align. That can take some time to align, but yeah, they also talk to each other. And on the notified body side, I mean, the activities that would really bring us forward are things that enhance the processes and improve the things, how things are done. Yeah, like getting things digitally, or reducing the effort of filling out application forms, having a simpler way of communicating, or just improving this connection and this communication part. Because for me, it's surprising, because the MDR is a complex thing. And as I once learned in a management or leadership training, you can't approach complex things with processes and rules and templates. Yeah, you need creativity and freedom, and that's something that really doesn't fit to our system. Yeah, there is laws that have to be followed. Everything needs to be on point, and everything needs to be super detailed. In the end, it's super complex. So the only thing that we could do is communicate, and that's something I'm saying for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years now. And I think within that element of communication, there is a lot to do. And I think notified bodies, and that's something we do, is we can be more reachable. We can provide more insights in how we interpret things, and we can just be more present in the public discussion about things.
So yes, we have, and maybe Christina, I don't know if for you it's because we have the part that is political and the part that is more practical, or do what mainly is written, and here we have more the political part from the competent authority members, etc. So from your side, Christina, is what Martin said mainly you agree on that, or there is still some blur or some fuzzy things that are not clear?
Well, it's really good to hear that there is kind of stakeholder involvement that brings everybody forward, and I really like to hear that. But when you look at the current discussions with Article 10A in the Third Amendment, we see a complete different situation. The Commission and also the member states, they are not they don't want to hear the industry, or probably also notified bodies. But in this topic, notified bodies are not that big involved. Lucky you. So there are examples where this works very well, but there are also examples that work completely in the wrong way. And I think this is also one main reason why industry is calling for a centralized governance structure, to have one voice and one decision making structure, because this example with Article 10A is really one of the worst things during the whole MDR history I made, and it's a pity, because I think industry and also notified body opinion is the Commission and the member states could have a lot of advantage to hear what industry and notified body are saying, because that's the practical thing, and there you could match these political and practical things. And if this doesn't happen, you won't get a practical regulation, and if you, it's not only the MDR or medical device or this sector, but the EU thinks that they can improve everything with regulation, and I'm sorry, I don't agree.
Okay. I mean, yes, we moved from MDD with, if I remember, MDD and AI MDD, like 80 pages, and we arrive now to more than 300 pages, and apparently it's not solving all the issues. So yeah, and I remember one time, Eric, you said that yeah, they are. It's more to make it like one person understand it in that way, another in another way, so that everybody is happy because
there's
they
a lot
understand
of
what they want
room
to
for
hear.
interpretation. Yes.
Yes. What do you think, Eric, on that?
Well, specifically, I think the harmonization through centralization theme that I hear both from Christina and from Martin Witte, I think that's a very important thing. Also, the creativity that is needed in the system for the system to work is also very important, I think. What I personally, as a lawyer, still miss in the medical devices system is there is more procedural harmonization, because what we do have is we have a lot of substantive harmonization in the system, like you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to have every this much time you need to hand in these documents, and these documents should say this. What we don't really have, I think, and that is something where you see companies really suffer, is more harmonization in what is notified body procedure, for example. And of course, we do have, and this is, I think, one of the things where the MDR and the IVDR took a really good step by means of Annex 7, which harmonizes a lot of notified body procedure that was basically under the directives, like completely up in the air. Basically, every member state could more or less do what they liked behind the scenes. Of course, there were some harmonization documents, but not very much. But I think here, this is also a place where the MDR is, basically not finished yet. For example, and this is not the fault of the notified bodies. I should make that very clear, because it's not like they sort of maliciously adopt different procedures just to antagonize the world against them or something. This is absolutely not how it works. But what is very confusing, for example, for companies, is that it is very hard to compare services of notified bodies. And if you are looking at how could notified bodies compete better as to make the system work better as it was intended, because I think what Martin mentioned as competition between notified bodies, it's a very important point, because this is basically how conformity assessment for basically every product legislation is organized, that you have notified bodies that compete with each other on the basis of certain objective criteria, right? And I think this is also one of the things actually that the LISA initiative does, is that it tries, and again, of course, you can differ in opinion whether it hits the right pitch or right notes in that regard, but that it tries to make notified body procedure more transparent. For example, by harmonizing what a notified body contract should look like. What we've heard Christina say, for example, that for some notified bodies, it takes a long time to get your certificate after the assessment phase has ended, for example. These are all things that I think could be harmonized, and I actually think that this would also improve the functioning of notified bodies. For example, you see notified bodies that use very different contract structures, which leads to companies, basically being completely caught by surprise because they don't understand that, for example, TÜV Süd can offer you, and Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, but TÜV Süd can offer you a framework agreement within which you can do multiple certification, multiple conformity assessments under the same contractual conditions, keeping your contract with the notified body. Whereas on the other hand, the notified body like BSI will say every conformity assessment is a separate contract, which you could say, well, that's pretty innocent, but it does have regulatory consequences. For example, with the way the transitional system worked under Article 120. And that really, I've seen clients really suffer some very nasty, that you could say, regulatory accidents because it was not transparent whether you had a contract or not, for example, right? So these are aspects that I think could be harmonized to improve the system further. Or, for example, if you don't agree with the notified body's assessment, then currently the MDR says, well, then you need to be able to appeal within the notified body. But what happens next is unclear. Now, for example, whether you can then escalate the decision of the notified body to court. In some member states, yes, you can. In some member states, you cannot, for example, or you need to escalate it to court as a contract dispute, which is very difficult because then you get to a non-specialized contract court, things like that. Again, it's not something that notified bodies deliberately do to make things difficult, but it is, I would say, one of the aspects where the system can still improve.
No, agree.
That's my own personal hobby horse as a lawyer, because I get the companies as clients that get into trouble with this kind of thing.
No, it's true, and even me. So as a consultant, we receive a lot of clients that are asking us which notified body should I choose, which one is the most difficult, which one is the best, which one. I mean, I don't have a grid with all those information, so I don't know. I always say that there is no information for that, but. Yes, you see when you work with different notified bodies that yes, they are different in terms also of service, in terms of communication, in terms of everything. So yeah, and as Martin said, there should be some differences. Otherwise, there will be just one sugar for everyone.
Yeah, and you also need some innovation in here. Yeah, so if we come up with new service offerings and the others don't, then of course we have an advantage, and exactly. That's something the companies on the other end also do. So I understand that maybe some things could be harmonized, but I'm very careful here because it goes into some fundamental rights of companies for contractual freedom and also developing our own services. But yeah,
it's a balance between, on the one hand, a notified body basically exercises state authority when they decide you get market access or not. And in that sense, that aspect should be harmonized. On the other hand, of course, since notified bodies are private undertakings, they should be able to compete. And this is a balance basically that needs to be struck. And currently, I think the balance is too much on the third issue, and that is basically it's not clear. And that's why I think this should be this can really be improved, so to make the system more transparent and predictable for everybody.
So Christina, BVMed, you have made a position paper or a white paper, so can you tell us more about that?
Well, it tackles a lot of topics that are also in the LISA initiative proposal. So we have the proposal for missing regulations, for example, innovation, orphan devices, niche products. We have also the bureaucratic topic, so decreasing bureaucracy and increasing efficiency in the system, and also of course the recertification circle is one of the main topics, and international reliance, for example within the MD sub program, and last but not least the governance structure we already discussed. So it's mainly the topics that are discussed a lot, or have been discussed a lot within industry, within also the Commission, and also in politics. So yeah, that's the main topics we discussed for months and for now for years, and we put that in a paper last year in June, and tried to have not only the problems described, but also some solutions or possibilities for discussion.
So we talked a lot about Germany doing all this. So what about the other countries? Do we have also MedTech Europe that maybe is involved, or some other trade association that are also having this kind of discussion, or maybe white papers or proposals?
Well, it was in the beginning of the discussion. It was also always one of the topics that there is. It is a German problem. The MDR is a German problem, and only Germany has difficulties to implement MDR. What is absolutely not the fact. Everyone knows that, but Germany was raised their voice. We have a lot of industry. We are a big market within Europe, within the world. So it was logical that Germany raised their voice, and after a few discussions about the German problem, everyone recognized that it's not only a German problem, but a sectoral problem. But of course, the problem is bigger or has more impact within countries or regions where the industry is located.
Yeah,
but there are also papers and discussions in other countries. Ireland, for example, or MedTech Europe also published a paper for the vision, the future regulatory system. So it's not only Germany complaining, and it's not only a German problem.
Okay, agree. Okay, so we are a bit more than the hour now. I think we covered really all what we wanted to talk about. Any last message, maybe Eric, Martin, Christina? So Eric, is any last thing or last advice, as you like to provide some advice at time?
Advice or message? Well, no, I mean, I just got, while this was going on, a message from a journalist that said, hey, it's very quiet in Europe. Is anything happening with regard to the MDR and the IVDR? And I was like, dude, the fact that there's nothing coming out doesn't mean that nothing is happening, right? So basically, what you should see, the MDR and the IVDR, you should see it as a bit of a, let's say, regulatory pressure cooker at the moment, right? It's all the ingredients are in there now, and it's cooking. And also, like Christina hinted, something will come out sooner or later, but the Commission has committed to a targeted evaluation. So this is happening, right?
Okay.
The Commission has to follow its procedures, but the Commission will do something.
Agree.
What it will look like, that will depend on how the Commission, on the basis of its discussions, pre-discussions with the Council, which is the member states and the parliament, will decide that it will calibrate any proposal. So this is basically, that's the unknown at the moment. Basically, I think we know sort of that you could say that the parliament has shown its cards, right? Because there's this LISA initiative. I'm pretty sure that this is something that the whole parliament will be able to get behind more or less. The Commission is doing this targeted evaluation, and of course they are not yet saying to everybody like, this is exactly what we are going to do, but there will be stakeholder consultation at some point, as they are supposed to do with good lawmaking. So we will see that happen sooner or later. For me, the member states are a bit of a dark horse in this discussion, because the member states they do not always think about these things the same way. There are member states like Germany, France, Italy, Ireland that have quite a large medical device industry, and for them this is also a national political issue. There are also member states that have no medical device industry to speak of, but they have notified bodies, so for them there is this dimension. And then there are member states that basically do not really have a dog in this fight, but can use this as a bargaining chip in other discussions. So, I mean, this makes the council really extremely difficult to predict in where this goes. But this is basically a triangle of things happening in this pressure cooker. So I would say watch what's happening, and don't think that because there is nothing being published at the moment that nothing is happening, because there's a lot happening.
Exactly. And we are on holiday with a holiday period, actually. So maybe not all are coming back. Martin, from your side?
Yeah, I like the picture with the pressure cooker. Yeah, if
you
open the pressure pot all the time, your dish will never get ready. So just keep it closed.
Yeah,
keep it closed. Just let it go. And I think that's really something. So we should, and that is also something, of course, we humans always want something better in future, and very likely there will be something better in future, but now is now, and we now have to accept that we can't look into the pot and that we don't know if the sausage is ready or not. As a German, I need to say sausage. Yeah. So that's that potato, but yeah, we don't know that. And maybe it's good to do what needs to be done now, and that's get your MDR stuff going if you haven't done yet. And the MDR capacity in notified bodies due to the changes has been significantly improved.
Yeah.
So we are way better in terms of resources than we've been 2 years ago. And don't waste this moment and be surprised about something changing and new deadlines and something like that. Yeah.
No, sure. Yeah, I agree. Christina, a last word?
Yeah, well, I think I couldn't agree more to say don't think that the MDR will go away again. It's here and we have to deal with it. But nevertheless, we will stay and remain loud to ensure patient care. So we are also looking forward to seeing what's in the pressure cooker.
Yeah, we all are really impatient for that. Okay, so it was really a pleasure to have you all. So thanks again for your participation, all the comments that you have provided. I'm sure that people will be really happy to see that. There will be a replay that will be placed next week. So mainly if there is some questions, then I will share that with you again. So thanks everyone. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for all the comments and discussion. And I wish you then a nice end of the day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.